Okay, you're back here on Agenda. Thank you for staying with us. And you are watching us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250, as well as on facebook.com/OneNewsPH or YouTube, One News PH. Okay, kung wala pa po kayong subscription ng Signal TV, ay kumuha na. Kasi katulad ko, my favorite channel there is the HGTV because I have always been a builder, renovator, restorer, etc. And I just love repairing things. And that is what's keeping me so busy during COVID-19 pandemic and during the quarantine. The question is, many of you are probably wondering, what's my future like? Do I still have a career, etc.? I received an email from someone who was talking about a book, your Future-Proof Your Career and Company. And when I checked the reviews, the write-ups, the book was basically talking about future-proofing your career and your company. This was before the COVID-19 pandemic. And, the concerns was artificial intelligence, gig economy, yung mga high-tech digital thingamajiggies, okay? But I wonder what would be the response of the author if we now put in context the things he was teaching versus the reality of today. And by God's grace, we have with us Maulik Parekh, an entrepreneur, angel investor, keynote speaker, and author of Future-Proof Your Career and Company. He is Singapore-based, but fortunately, he's in the Philippines today. Maulik, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Cito. Nice to be with you. And by the way, there's one thing we have in common. I'm a big fan of HD TV as well. I've spent hours and hours watching it. So nice to have something in common with you.
Okay, well, I do hope that in better times we can sit, have coffee, and talk about all of those projects. In any case, when someone pitched your book to me, I found it very interesting because I said, how would Maulik respond to future-proofing careers that are no longer existent? It's like COVID-19 wiped everything out and we have to start from scratch. But you're a veteran businessman, investor. Does your book, what you wrote in the book, still apply to today? Are there points there that we can still use?
Oh, no, absolutely. Actually, one of the reasons, Cito, I wrote this book, and a lot of it was written during this COVID-19 crisis, is because I felt that everybody is so focused on COVID-19 that as a businessman, as a businesswoman, we are taking our eyes off of some of the long-term trends that are underlying this COVID-19 crisis that we should be paying attention to. I believe that COVID-19 will one day fade away, hopefully soon. But the three forces that I talk about in the book are not going away anywhere. In fact, they're actually gaining speed, they're gaining strength, they're gaining momentum. And over the next 10 years, when we'll be looking at 2020, from 2030, COVID-19 will be a distant memory for us. But these forces would be an important part of our lives. And I think it's important for people to understand how these forces will play a very important role in their professional career going forward.
Yeah, because God willing, the vaccine will be with us in about a year or 2 years, but we will still have to deal with artificial intelligence, digitalizing our businesses and our economy. And I think the biggest learning for COVID-19 is the people who were not online were the businesses that suffered the most. So in your book, you've written a lot of stuff about this. What are the key points that you would like to share with our viewers? Because we don't have a lot of time, but I'd like to give you the opportunity, Maulik.
Sure. So I think very quickly, the reason why we should pay attention to these three forces is very important. Number one, AI. By 2030, according to a McKinsey study, some 375 million jobs are at risk of being displaced by AI and automation. As far as digital natives are concerned, by 2030, two-thirds of the workforce will be made up of millennials and Gen Zers. You know, we are used to Cito looking at these people as the interns or the entry-level employees. But by 2030, they will be sitting in the C-suites. They will be the decision makers. They will be the influencers and power brokers, and not only just the business, but also in politics. So we need to understand them. And the third thing I figured out was that the gig economy is becoming extremely popular. By 2030, 50% of the US workforce is expected to be part of the freelancing economy. And that number and that growth is going to be even significantly higher for countries like the Philippines and India. And think about it, Cito. Philippine economy, the OFW remittances are a very important part of Filipino economy here. Imagine people don't have to now go to US or go to other parts of the world to earn an income and send it back to their families here. They can actually live with their family. They can be part of their culture, part of this country, and still contribute to their families and their siblings and their communities around the world.
Yeah, so how do Filipinos set things up, or the Philippine government for that matter, set things up so that we are competitive? Because I know you moved to Singapore. Singapore 25 years ago decided we're going to have high quality education, so we have high quality graduates who can get high quality jobs. You're now saying that we need to have a system that adapts to the reality of artificial intelligence, the gig economy, etc.
So I think a lot of the groundwork in the Philippines is already done. You know, I was part of the BPO industry until very recently. I was running one of the leading BPO companies here in the Philippines. And I noticed that the government has done an amazing job over the last 20 years getting that industry up and running. Now there are almost 1.3 million people working in that industry. And if you look at how that industry is doing, it's still growing at 5-6% a year, which is a pretty significant growth for an industry of that size of almost 1.3 million people. So I think a lot of the groundwork that is needed to prepare the Philippines for the freelancing economy is already done. Most important thing is for people to understand what are some of the skills that would be needed to excel when the AI is going to start taking over some of the jobs that we are doing today.
Yeah, and what would those be, Maulik? Because from what I know, 30, 40 years ago or 50 years ago, somebody created an answering machine, not realizing that when he or she created that answering machine, he created a poison pill, so to speak. It's going to take away jobs in the future.
No, so, I talk about 5 things people can do to improve their chances for career growth over the next 10 years. Number 1, the future is AI. That train has left the station, Cito, so it's not coming back. So we need to adapt to that. And the best way to adapt to that is to become the kind of human that AI cannot replicate. AI can replicate your job if you are doing something that is boring, that is repetitive, and if it has rules that AI can follow. So if you are, for example, in a call center industry and just answering basic customer query, if you are working in a restaurant flipping burgers, if you are working in a hotel checking in guests, all of those things could be done by AI one day. But if you're doing something that requires creativity, if you're doing something that requires empathy, EQ, malasakit, as you say in the Philippines, then AI doesn't know what that is. For AI, malasakit is actually a word that is an enigma. And it's important for us to cultivate more of that in our day-to-day life, in our professional career.
Yeah, you have to forgive me, Maulik, if I'm smiling while you were talking, because when you said that AI does not have malasakit, yeah, you don't have to tell me that, because every time I use Waze or something like that, I realize how indifferent those artificial intelligence can be. It's like they don't care what you feel. They basically say you either turn left or you push the button. I don't particularly care. But okay, so you need to have empathy. You need to have creativity. I suppose there are certain jobs that needs a physical presence still, construction, like, HGTV, you and I watch it. So there are a lot of jobs there. I tell people, we put down the construction job, the job of the farmers, etc. But there will come a day when you can't find construction people, and that's already happened in the Philippines. We have a shortage of construction workers. Now we're about to have a shortage of farmers because they're just basically saying, I'm done, I quit because you people aren't paying me enough to feed you.
No, absolutely. I mean, you make an excellent point, and I cover that in the book, that while the future is AI, future is also people, because for the next 10 years at least, the people are not going anywhere. They're going to be an important part of business success. So if you want to become better at what you're doing, if you want to grow your career, then you need to figure out how to become an alchemist, alchemist who takes ordinary people and turns them into doing extraordinary things. So if you can do that by becoming an inspiring leader, then AI would not be able to replicate that, and you are in a better place to grow your career going forward.
Okay, now in terms of setting up a business, Maulik, a lot of the young people are asking that question. And, what is the future as far as, your book is concerned, and as far as COVID-19 is concerned? You said, okay, COVID-19, maybe 10 years the most, but that's all going to be gone. What's the future in terms of setting up businesses? Because the reality, and you evidently love the Philippines. You spend a lot of time here. But here's the thing. Most businesses I see popping up all over the place are food related. And I'm wondering, is this sustainable when everything is said and done? What sort of businesses should the millennials get into?
That's an important point. By the way, that's one thing Filipinos and Indians have in common. We love our food. So the same thing I see in India as well when I go back to my home country. But instead of looking at what business to get into, I think what I cover in the book is a list of 5 things each business should do to become future-proof. So one of the things that I talk about in the book is that the future is digital. So the businesses will have to transform. And I give an example from the food industry, actually, that if you go to Domino's Pizza, for example, in the US, just 12 years ago, Cito, they only gave you 2 choices to order the pizza. Either you walk into their store or you call and get a delivery. Today, they have gone through massive digital transformation, and you can order Domino's Pizza 15 different ways, including a way where you don't even have to click anything. There is a 0-click option to order your pizza for Domino's. So because of that, Domino's is now roughly 51% of the online market share in the US. So when you are going into any industry, the most important question you have to ask is, are you digitally transforming yourself? Are you utilizing all the technology that is available to improve your customer experience, to improve your employee experience? Are you solving problems? Are you creating value?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Maulik, I know I don't want to put you in the spot, okay, but you're an analyst. You understand business practices, etc. And me, I'm a in-your-face kind of person. I'm a tough love sort of guy. What are the things that we are doing wrong in business in the Philippines? I mean, I'm sorry, we need to call it, because one thing I personally observed when we shifted into this work from home situation, many of my friends were holding back. They were relying on their phone. They wouldn't buy cameras. They wouldn't buy lights, etc. And I'm going, guys, you have no choice. It's going to be digital. You have to invest in the technology. What other practices or what other things are we doing wrong in the Philippines?
That's an excellent point, and I'm going to just tweak it a little bit, answering that, because I went through that experience firsthand when I was running one of the largest BPO companies here in the Philippines. And what I noticed, not only in my company, but also across the industry, is that we were taking Filipino people, we were putting them through training, and we were turning them into robots by telling them, okay, this is the script that you need to follow. These are the rules and regulations that you need to follow when you're talking to the customers from around the world. And I felt that while the rest of the world is spending so much energy and effort and money in making robots or the chatbots or the Siri or the Alexa more human, we are taking the humans here in the Philippines who come with so much empathy, so much malasakit, so much passion for what they want to do and how they want to help people. I think that's one thing we need to really change here. I think one of the things that we tried to do in my company over the last 3 years, especially, was putting more emphasis in allowing people to become more human. Because at the end of the day, when technology takes a bigger role in our life, eventually, when we talk to somebody over the phone with a person with a heart, person with some emotions, that's when we feel the best. And if we can create those moments of truths for customers who are calling in and making their life easier, that's one of the things that I think we need to focus on, to let humans be humans again.
Okay, what else?
I think the other thing we have to do is to keep up with what's happening in the technological world. Innovation is an important part of the book that I mentioned here. A lot of the companies are failing at innovation, Cito, because they think innovation is taking your C-suite or the executives to Silicon Valley and spending a week there and think that if they breathe that innovation in Silicon Valley, they're going to transform themselves. That doesn't happen. They think that if they create a very small innovation lab in their company, while the rest of the company remains very bureaucratic, that's not going to happen. They think that if they just go and buy a small startup and acquire them, but not change anything in their parent company, the old ways of working, then that's not going to happen. So for innovation to take place and for you to be successful in innovation, you actually have to really define what innovation means for your company. You have to strategize about what kind of innovation you are going after. Are you going after incremental innovation for your company? Are you going after adjacent innovation? Or are you going after revolutionary innovation like what Apple did when they introduced iPhone?
Yeah. Okay. Because innovation is a tricky word, Maulik. Okay. Everyone has an interpretation of innovation. Some people will say innovation is a physical thing. Some will say it's an attitudinal thing or a conceptual thing. Where would you guide or lead our viewers as far as innovation in the Philippines is concerned? Because I know that's why I asked I have to call you a foreigner, although you're probably half Filipino already. But because an outsider sees things we are blind to. Many Filipinos will tell you, "Oh, we can't change that. That's the way we've always done it. That's how my father does the business, and that's how I'm going to do it, etc." But where would you guide us to identify what areas need innovation?
Sure. So you make an excellent point, and I have a whole page dedicated to that because when I was doing research for this book, I realized when you Google innovation definition, there are 100 different definitions or more. So first and foremost, you have to actually define what innovation means. And one of the definitions that I like the most, and it's very simple, and it says innovation is executing new ideas to create value. So the most important thing about that sentence is creating value. Just because you like a new technology and you acquire it and put it in your system, that doesn't make you innovative. In order for you to become innovative, you have to create value for your customers, for your employees, for your stakeholders. If that's not happening, then you are not following the innovation.
So don't just put on accessories. I mean, I'm a car guy as well, and many people just love to put accessories. They'll put on mag wheels, they'll put on tint, but they don't see the the value that goes into putting those accessories on, whether not just looks, but fuel efficiency, road safety, etc. So if you're going to put something into your organization, it shouldn't be a mere accessory. It should enhance or improve the outcome of the organization.
That's absolutely right. I write in the book that you have to begin with end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. The end here is what is the value you are trying to create for your stakeholders. Once you have established what that value is, then you can work backwards and figure out what technology, what process changes you would need to create that value.
Okay, what would you say to a guy like me, Maulik? I'm a terrorist of sorts when it comes to the corporate setup. It's like if you can't think big enough or you can't think wide enough, I'll fire you. That has been my my mantra through in the past. It's like if you're not on board, jump out. Is that a solution, or should we look for innovative people, or should we look inside?
No, one of the things that I mentioned in the book, Cito, is how important it is for companies to go out and hire what I call catalysts or mavericks. When Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, was asked, what do you look for when you are either recruiting people or promoting people? And he said, even though these people are pain in the neck, I look for people who are a bit different. I look for people who are going to push the limits. I look for people who are going to make you uncomfortable because they're always pushing limits, not only of themselves, for people around them. The reason why he's doing that, because he realizes that in order for a company to succeed going forward, they would need to improve themselves at a micro level, at each employee level. So if each employee is becoming a catalyst for change, for a better change, then at a macro level, company is also going to do amazing things.
Okay, I think you were referring to me when you said pain in the neck, because I've had quite a number of clients who call me, Cito, you are a pain in the neck and in the behind. But, I don't care. I really don't care, because I feel that, if I walk into a situation, you got to change it. And that's what you were pointing out, that you need people to bring a different perspective to your already stayed or stabilized organization, because stability is not always profitability, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, the way I end the book, it says that you have a choice as a business now. Either you choose growth or stability, and the stability has a new synonym in this day and age, especially in the digital age. Stability means extinction. If you remain stable, one day you will not be there anymore. So you have to constantly grow. You have to kind of push your limits, and you have to surround yourself with employees who are also cultivating those muscles to become the catalyst for change. They're saying no more to mediocrity. They are saying no more to those things that don't make any sense. If you have employees who are just keep repeating, I have gone through many different companies, and I have run into people who would say, well, no, that's not how we do it here, or we have never done it this way. And it drives me crazy when people say that, because if we don't question our own processes, if we don't take a step back and say, the existing processes, would they make us successful going forward, then I think it's going to be very difficult for companies to continue growing.
A lot of CEOs have read your book. Even our chairman, Manny Pangilinan, has had good words to say about the book. But here's my thing. How does a boss or a chairman or a CEO differentiate between someone who is innovative, someone who is future-proofing the organization, the business model, versus someone who is just bottom lines?
Well, I think one of the things you have to look for is that person open to change? Is this person coming up with new ideas? Are you getting emails or text messages or Viber messages from this person saying, hey, boss, have you thought about doing this? How about we try this? Because I think the companies need to have people who are going to fail, but fail fast and learn from it and then become a better person, but also make the company better.
Well, someone who espouses what you wrote in the book about future proofing, about innovation, I mean, experience has taught me that you will burn bridges, you will pay the price. I'd like it to come from you. What is the benefit? What is the reward for following the path that Maulik is writing in his book?
Yes, and I have done enough of that in my own career, Cito. I think that's one of the things probably we both have in common, in addition to HDTV. We both have push limits, and I think people in my career have perhaps seen me as someone who is the pain in the neck. But you give them some time, and when they look back, they have better things to say about you because they realize, looking back with Vision 2020, that what you were saying 5 years, 10 years ago made sense now. And I think for the catalyst, they should not worry too much about people who are naysayers, people who are always questioning, people who are skeptics. I think they should follow their guts. They should surround themselves with people who are equally passionate about moving the needle in the right direction.
Okay, do you patiently do that in an organization, or to just say, okay, that's it, you guys aren't going to follow this idea, or you guys, because you and me, we pitch, we suggest, we recommend, but there comes a point when you need to decide, do I stay with these jokers? It's hard to be an eagle, soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. Or do I just move on to another organization?
I think as a leader, you have to communicate. Your responsibility of communicating your vision is on the leader. You have to do your most important job of letting people know why you are doing something. If people understand the why of what you're doing, then they would follow you and fall in line in what and how and everything else. So the most important thing leaders have to do is to explain to the people why you are doing something. And then after you've done your best, if there are some people who are still not getting on the bandwagon, then you have to make some tough decisions.
How does a leader figure out? Because here, and you've been around here long enough to know, there are many corporations in the Philippines, and I've worked with many of them, where the leader is a visionary, but then you have a ladder full of, suck-ups, people who just basically want to protect their territory and make sure that the boss sees them, but not anybody under them.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the leader is successful, then the leader would look through and see through the suck-ups. And leader, if that person is visionary, then would realize that by having suck-ups around you, yeah, your ego will feel good, your pride will feel good, but it's not good for the business. Eventually, there is going to be a startup, there is going to be someone out there in the market who is going to disrupt your business model and put you out of the business. They would put you into extinction. So it's very important, Cito, you make a good point, that you have to really surround yourself with people who are going to question you. All my life, I have surround myself with people who have come into my office and said, Maulik, I don't agree with this. Now, they did it professionally, and I had to explain why I was doing it. But there are times when I had to agree with what they were saying, and I changed the course of action because of their feedback.
Oh, interesting, because I just read up on that this morning, and that was the review of a good leader. A man or a woman who can actually say, you know what, you're right and I'm wrong, and that's a sign of a good leader. And that's why I asked that question, because that's the first step in future-proofing your career and your companies, is be able to be a good leader. Well, Maulik, thank you very much. I wish I had more time with you, but maybe in the future we can discuss these topics more, especially when you're in town. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Cito, for having me.
Okay, that's Mr. Maulik Parekh. His book is Future-Proof Your Career and Company. And we've run out of time. And, the time is so short when you're having a good time. I hope you had a good time watching Agenda. Please join us tomorrow. God bless all of you. And give the people around you, the pat in the back, the kiss, the recognition, and always be an encourager. Thank you. God bless all of you.